Service orchestration demo using FNT Process Center, Inmanta Service Orchestrator and Lifecycle Management, and Unified Resource Inventory based on FNT command. This example was built together with a partner Inmanta and their existing network in their lab, and also the virtualized routers and the OLTs provided by the VZ. This is how the inventory model is looking like. The objects in black, gray, and green are existing in the inventory already. It is assumed that the physical connectivity was already done, and the devices are existing in the system. So the teal colored resources are being orchestrated, reserved, and documented by the orchestrator, and of course provisioned in the network. In order to provision a service, we need to create a request. I'm creating an Inmanta service, selecting the category provisioning, and creating some name. The request is being created, it's in the status draft, and we need to fill out the form data. Now it's important to notice that this information is usually provided by the upstream system, like product orchestration or service catalog orchestration. But in this case, we let the user select the input parameters of the service in order to orchestrate it. The form information was modeled flexibly using FNT form editor. So let's say this would be Berlin, Hermann Hesse Street, house number 85. Please note that behind this house number there is a real ONT located, which is connected to the real OLT and is going to be provisioned using the Inmanta orchestrator. All of the drop-down data is being dynamically loaded from FNT inventory system. Let's select the QoS. For example, it's going to be silver, the bandwidth, for example, 50 megabits, and the provider is going to be either FNT or Inmanta Telecom. Clicking on Save. Now we can submit our order. And the workflow was instantiated in the background. We can take a look on it using our workflow domain. In the monitoring, we can see the activity log of this workflow. So the process started, all inputs validated, and of course the milestone inputs validated was reached. This activity log is going to be updated as the workflow is progressing, but in the meantime, we can take a look at the dashboard in Camunda. Please note that this view is not usually available to the users. It's just for you to see how the process was modeled using Camunda BPMN engine and how the workflow is processing. It's just for your reference. We are using a lot of predefined service tasks here. The service tasks used to integrate with inventory and some custom service tasks implemented as scripts to interact with Inmanta orchestrator. So now we are currently at the Inmanta stage, so we can take a look at what's going on in the orchestrator. So currently we see that there is a one reserved service instance. What does it mean reserved? It means that the resources were checked They are available and allocated and reserved within the inventory, but the service was not yet provisioned in the network. There are no resources available. There is only a high-level documentation of the service created in the inventory. We can see it when we are changing to FNT command. So in order to see it, we can take a look at this NetSpider. So we have our ONT at Berlin, Hermann Hesse Street 085. We have our backbone, our bearer towards OLT, the backbone connection, and the PE, which is connected to the BNG. Now that we refresh this NetSpider in the planning mode, we see that there was some service created between the ONT and the second PE. I can open this service with a telco module and see it's very detailed. So the start port is going to be our ONT, the end port, the SAP on the Berlin North side. The routing is very important alongside with the existing infrastructure like this PON bearer between the ONT and the OLT. The orchestrator had created along the way the VLAN connection 1760 and the ePipe connection between two Nokia routers. So the blue box, blue cube with a plus signifies that this is a planned resource, as well as the FTTH bitstream service itself. I can open it with a planning module and see that there is a planning protocol that was created by the orchestrator that basically describes the build-up of the service. Our task is currently to verify the design of the service, and maybe there is something we need to wait for. So currently the provisioning of the service is being put on hold. The orchestrator is waiting for our signal in order to provision the service. We can click a little bit along here. We can, for example, take a look at the physical bearer and see its physical tracing. So we see all of the physical connectivity. It's traceable, which means the service physically is provisioned. It's looking fine. We can also take a look at the OLT. The OLT also there looks fine. We can look at this elevation view here in the POP location, Berlin, Hermann Hesse Street. So I think the service is fine to be provisioned. How do I know, by the way, that I need to verify the design of the service? I should have received a task in my inbox. So there is one. I have to verify a new service reservation with this ID 98. It was created in FNT command at this address, at this bandwidth, and this provider. So we currently have seen that inventory looks good. I can close the task and the workflow goes further. So now the orchestrator should have received the intent to really create and deploy and verify the service. As you can see, it's being created here. The resources are being deployed one by one. Looks good. Almost every resource is deployed. Service is verified and it's up. It's done. It's available. And the last step in the provisioning part, the Inmanta orchestrator goes into command inventory and putting the planning protocol where all resources were created in planning mode into as is state. So currently the orchestrator is updating the inventory And as a final notification, I'm getting the email notification that my service was provisioned. So this email notification is generated by the workflow engine from FNT. There you have the request ID, you have the parameters of your service, and you have the provider. Coming back to the request domain, we should actually see that it's now closed. Yeah, it's completed. The service provisioning is done. Request is closed and the service is working. So this was an example of service provisioning. Now about the deprovisioning of the service. We could just directly delete this service from the orchestrator, but if we want to do it in a correct way, I need to create a request that will deprovision the service. I just need to select a deprovisioning category in this case, and I need to give a name to this request. And because it's another category, I already have another form data. I have to select a customer and I need to select the planning protocol or the service that I want to deprovision. So obviously it's the last one we have provisioned. Save, submit. Now the new workflow instance is created, and now it's a deprovisioning instance, so it's a completely different workflow. It's much more simple. We can follow it here, and at some point the orchestrator will get the instruction to not only deprovision the service, but also to deallocate all of the resources in the command inventory. So let's wait a little bit. At some point, the deprovisioning should start. So now you can see that the service is being deleted and deallocated because the intent was set to delete it. It's not only the deallocating the resources of services, but also cleans up the FNT inventory. The service is away. Inside of inventory, the planning protocol doesn't exist anymore. Makes sense. And the deprovisioning request is now set to complete, and I should have gotten an additional notification that so the request ID is 99, of course, but my request number 98 was successfully dismantled. This is how the end-to-end provisioning and deprovisioning use case looks like using FNT Process Center, Inmanta Orchestrator, and FNT Command as unified inventory. Thank you.